Edward VII, the autopsy that never happened. May 1910. The king is dead. Edward VII, Bertie, the Playboy prince turned portly monarch, has finally collapsed after decades of cigars, champagne breakfasts, and scandal. But here's the twist. Unlike his grandfather George III or his mother Victoria, there's no record of an autopsy. None. The doctors kept their findings close to the chest, literally. So today, we're doing the job they never did. Let's drag Edward VII onto the forensic table and imagine what his autopsy would have revealed. The final days. Edward was 68 and his body had been protesting for years. He wheezed through bronchitis, clutched his chest with angina attacks he dismissed as indigestion, and kept puffing away at a daily diet of 20 cigarettes and a dozen cigars. By May 1910, he was visibly bloated, gasping for breath, and so weak he could barely walk. On the 6th of May, after suffering a series of heart attacks, he died in Buckingham Palace. Cause of death? The official line was pneumonia and heart failure. But what would an autopsy have shown? Imagined autopsy report. The following is what Edward VII's doctors might have written if they'd had the courage and the honesty to put it on paper. The lungs. Congested, heavy, filled with fluid. Clear signs of pneumonia, the immediate trigger that ticked him over the edge. Years of smoking had left his lungs scarred, blackened, and prone to infection. The heart. Massively enlarged, arteries stiff with atherosclerosis. The coronary arteries likely 80 to 90% blocked. He had been living on borrowed time for years. The abdomen. Thick layers of fat, evidence of obesity. Fatty deposits crowding around the liver, pancreas and kidneys. The royal organs practically drowning in butter and brandy. The kidneys. Showing strain, possibly early renal failure. Another ticking bomb. The brain. Probably normal. No evidence suggests stroke or dementia. His decline was cardiac, not neurological. In other words, the king's body would have told the story everyone already suspected. Indulgence, excess, and years of medical denial. What they chose not to do. So why no autopsy? Because everyone already knew what killed him. The doctors didn't need to split him open to see the damage. And the family had no interest in confirming publicly that the King of England was essentially undone by foie gras, tobacco and gouty overindulgence. His mother Victoria got a discreet peek under the hood. His grandfather George III got a full dissection. Edward VII? Silence. The modern diagnosis. If Edward VII were alive today, cardiologists would have had a field day. Coronary artery disease severe. Chronic bronchitis from smoking, obesity-related type 2 diabetes very likely, hypertension, final cause of death pneumonia, tipping his already failing heart over the edge. With modern medicine, he'd have been told to quit smoking, lose weight, take statins and swap champagne for sparkling water. Edward would have hated every minute. The final irony. So Edward VII, the king of excess, left no autopsy record, but his lifestyle wrote the autopsy for him. Every cigar, every mistress, every overstuffed dinner was another scalpel mark waiting to happen, and in the end, the silence of the missing post-mortem says it all. There was no mystery to solve. The king died of being Bertie. So there you have it, Edward VII, the autopsy that never happened. One king, zero scalpel. But a body that still testifies, in bloated heart, scarred lungs and clogged arteries, to a lifetime of unchecked indulgence. That was Past People, Edward VII, the king who didn't need cutting open because he'd already carved his own fate.